So what was it like spending the entire day as a 1950s housewife? It was terrible, and now I know why they started burning their bras in the 60s. A few weeks ago, I saw a video here on YouTube where someone was living for an entire week like a 1950s housewife. I'm gonna put a link to that video down below. It inspired me to buy some dresses, to put on pearls, and to print off the sheet to have the schedule. I'm only doing it for one day. One entire day as a 1950s housewife. It was less than fun. First, I had to get up really early to make my kids a full breakfast before they started school, which was like, I made bacon in the oven, and then I had legit like 15 minutes to quickly get ready. So I tried to do my hair like a 1950s housewife. I had to curl it, and then I just slapped on some tulle because I didn't have a bandana because I haven't washed my hair in a couple days. So I slapped on this thing. I don't know. I saw it somewhere, and some red lipstick, and then ran back and made eggs, and we had fresh bread. You guys, I made bread, like from scratch the night before, because if you don't have homemade bread to serve with your breakfast, are you even a housewife? I don't know. It was my first time ever making bread. It actually turned out really good. That's the one thing I might keep out of this whole ordeal is I'm gonna keep making homemade bread. But so we made breakfast. I had breakfast with the kids. Some of you might be thinking so far that this seems like a typical day. Maybe you get up and you make your kids bacon and eggs every morning. I do not. They eat cereal or they starve. It's like fend for yourself. So already I'm off to like a bad start to my day. And then I had to clean everything up. Then it gets weird. Then it's 1950s exercise. So I guess after breakfast and after they clean, they do these exercises, which aren't even really like exercising. It's mostly just flapping your arms and stomping your feet while standing there. There's no sweating involved, but I guess how could you really get really sweaty when you're in heels and in a poofy dress? Maybe they don't wear that to exercise. I don't know, but I did. The heels lasted all of 5 seconds. The whole exercise part was weird. After getting buff, I made all of the beds, I did a light dusting of the entire house, I tidied all the bathrooms, and then I mopped the kitchen floor because that was on my list. This is all like before 9:30 in the morning. Yeah. Next, my schedule said I had to start preparing for the meals and crisping vegetables. I have no idea what crisping vegetables means. It's fine. I took out the pot roast because it's the 1950s. You have to be making a pot roast. And I took out Brussels sprouts to let them defrost. And then I had to make a list of all the things that we were going to eat that day. So we're gonna have homemade soup and cookies. Every meal needs a dessert apparently in the 50s. So I had to make a list, which means I had to go to the store in my ridiculous dress. I took the bow off. I just covered myself with a coat. I ran out and picked up a few things that I needed for all of the meals. I came back, I unpacked the bag, and then I had to start making homemade cookies. I love this homemade cookie recipe. While the cookies were baking, I made homemade soup. I love this recipe so hard. It's an Oprah soup recipe. Instead of dumplings, I added some noodles to it, but it's just carrots and celery, and I added potatoes because more starch equals more goodness, am I right? And some chicken broth. We already had leftover roast chicken, so I threw that in at the very end, and voila, homemade soup, which we served with the homemade bread that I toasted in the oven and put a little butter on it, and of course the cookies. Delish. Except now I have to clean up the entire kitchen, which was like so many dishes. And I might have to run the dishwasher again for the second time today, which is like crazy pants. It involves a lot of cleaning and a lot of cooking. That's the vibe I'm getting. They must have done so many dishes in the 50s. After you've cleaned up from lunch, you're supposed to do one big chore. So I chose vacuuming because the entire house is filled with like leaves and crumbs and hair. It's pretty bad. So I vacuumed from top to bottom. I vacuumed every single room. I vacuumed the stairs. I went crazy, not in heels. I definitely wore socks. I had given up the heels by morning. I have no idea. They can't be really cleaning in heels. Am I right? That sounds ridiculous, yeah. But I vacuumed. As soon as I got done vacuuming, then I had to start preparing dessert because you need a dessert for every meal. So I'm making lemon pineapple cake. So I had to start that so that it could be completely cooled by the time I make the homemade icing, and then I got to make the pot roast. So I made the dessert, and then comes a bunch of other weird stuff, including setting the table, which is something that we see in TV, but I've never actually like set the table. We just get our plates and serve ourselves. But anyway, so I set the table. The kids are going to be excited about that. And then I set out, let me see. I arranged the living room for husband's enjoyment. That's literally what it says on the list. You have to set out slippers, his favorite drinks, a newspaper, or a game for him to enjoy so that you can greet him gaily when he comes into the house and give him a comfortable spot to sit while you prepare dinner. It's 4:30 and I'm about to start the pot roast, and I have to be honest with you, I'm really grumpy. Like, I'm tired and I'm really sick of this crap, and I'm sort of like angry that as a woman this was ever something that we felt we had to like be a slave to our family while wearing a pretty dress. I don't know, like I'm not feeling it right now. I'm not feeling it, but I'm gonna make this pot roast with rage. I'm gonna rage cook a pot roast. Listen, I'm using an Instapot. Do they have an Instapot in the 50s? I don't know, and I don't care. I'm using the Instapot. I'm gonna sear the beef and put it in, and then make the mashed potatoes and roast some vegetables. And while the roast is cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and make homemade buttercream icing for the pineapple lemon cake. I'm very tired at this point. Like, this is when I never get up before the sun, and I certainly don't spend my entire day in the kitchen, and the only time I leave the kitchen is to clean, to go right back into the kitchen. This has been an experience for me. But when dinner's done, then I serve my family this dinner, crossing my fingers, hoping they actually eat it, because guess what? You know what comes with a giant dinner? An obnoxious amount of dishes that you have to do again. This will be the third time that I've had to clean the kitchen, and the third time that I've had to run the dishwasher, and it had a load full every single time, which is like bananas to me. It's so many dishes because everything's from scratch, everything's homemade, and you're making a dessert for every meal, which is just like, it's full crazy. I forgot the most important part. Before I served dinner, I had to freshen up again. So you have to like fix your hair and your makeup and maybe change your clothes, because heaven forbid your husband sees that you might be a little tired and sweaty after slaving in the kitchen and cleaning the house all day. No, you can't look like any of this was work. It has to look effortless, like fairies have done it for you. So I reapplied some lipstick. And the final thing you're supposed to do is set the table for breakfast the next day. Make sure you have everything ready. Make your husband's lunch if he leaves for the next day. And then enjoy an evening of relaxation. Yeah, right. I am so tired. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't seem like a lot, but maybe I'm just not used. I'm definitely not used to cooking, and I'm definitely not used to baking, and I just don't clean even close to this much. So I am exhausted. I give 1950s housewives credit, man, because I had like dishwashers and dryers and Instapots to help me. They're doing all this stuff like without that. So kudos to them. If you're really bored in lockdown like me and you want to try this schedule, I'm going to put a link to the schedule I followed down below, and I'm also going to put a link to that video that I watched that inspired me. She did this for an entire week, you guys, an entire week. The costumes are fun. I'll give you that. It's super fun to dress up. I'm going to put a link to this dress and the other dresses that I have for cleaning the house down below too. And of course, I'm going to put the link to all of the recipes that I used in this video so you can try them if you want. I mean, I wouldn't recommend this all the time, but I've been super bored during lockdown, so it was fun to see what it would be like. And it also makes me appreciate my life way more because, like, man, I don't think I could have done it. I definitely could not have been a 1950s housewife. I would have murdered my husband, 100%. Hey guys, thanks so much for those of you who have stayed to the end. So I'm old enough that I've seen like fashion trends come and go more than one time. You know what I mean? Like I lived through the 80s, and then the 80s came back, and the 90s, the whole grunge thing, and then that came back, and the 70s, I was in the 70s for 3 days. I was born in 1979 at the very end, so I had 3 days of the 70s, but that style came back too. But when the heck is this style gonna come back? When is the super cool 50s gonna come back? Like the 80s was the worst. The 80s was like, who the heck would wanna relive the 80s? Yet that made an appearance again. My kids are all wearing like hideous 80s sweaters and stuff, and like mom jeans, and I'm surprised they even broke out leg warmers. But these cool dresses, they're just not. When is this come? This is a fashion trend I can get behind. You know what I'm saying? Right now, I would be embarrassed wearing this out in public, because even at the store, people were staring at me because under my coat, my crinoline was It was puffing out, and I was wearing pearls, and I look kind of like a weirdo. But let's bring that back. Fedoras came back. Dudes were like all wearing fedoras, but the cool dress thing, what happened? Let's make this happen, you guys. Let's get some good fashion, because right now the only thing I can find when I go shopping is like leisure wear, because it's the times, you know what I mean? Or crop tops. Everything's a crop top. And it's just, nothing's flattering, and I want some dresses. That's all. I'll see you guys next time.